Hello, everybody, and welcome to the newest episode of Kill the Week. I'm your host, Brandon, along with my partner and producer, Jill. On today's episode, we have our recurring cast of people. We have Jess, we have Chris, we have Josh.
Hello.
And our guest today is our good friend and fellow podcaster, Matt. So, Matt, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you first and foremost for having me. I'm super excited to be here and talk movies with you guys. My name is Matthew Porter, aka Matty Ice. That's what the streets call me. I am a fellow podcaster, as Brandon did mention. Currently running two podcasts, Humble Stunt, DB4L, which is short for Dragon Ball for Life. It is a anime podcast. Dragon Ball, because everybody knows it. That was the honey to get you in. But once you get here, we got you. We're covering nerd culture for the culture is exactly what it sounds like. Growing up a black kid in Philly that loved anime, my fandom was very secret. It was kept inner because everybody didn't like what I liked. Everybody's more into sports, which I played too. But growing up in this content space, a lot of the people who speak on these topics don't really deliver in a way that is palatable for a lot of people who aren't super hardcore fans. So we wanted to start a podcast. We were able to deliver this information in a fun and different way, like barbershop talk for anime. And also anime and manga fans, my brother Josh, I know you know this is very much you can't, if you didn't like it back then, don't try to like it now. It has a very much you can't sit with us mentality. So we also want to use that podcast to like bridge the gap between casual fans who really do want to like learn about this stuff, but don't really feel welcomed by the hardcore OG fans from like the 90s and the 80s. So trying to bridge that gap. And then Annie, Are You Okay? Star Wars podcast, because who doesn't love Star Wars?
Like where can people hear it and follow and everything and support you guys?
Absolutely. So Dragon Ball for Life, you can follow us on all socials with DB4L_pod. That's the number 4, not spelled out. And that's on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. It would just be Dragon Ball for Life, the number 4, not spelled out. And Annie, Are You Okay? Podcast is Annie, ANIRU. So the letter R, letter U, then OK Pod on Instagram.
Sweet. Have you ever done, I'm a writer. Have you ever done BlurredCon? Have you ever gone to that?
So I don't know if it's the same thing, but Philly does this event called Blurred Bash, which is actually going to be on September 28th, not the timestamp this episode, depending on when it comes out. So I don't know if they're like in partnership or do the same thing, but I've been to that several times, which is awesome.
Yeah, I have a buddy of mine that I work with who went like every summer. My buddy Jordan loves it. He said it's such a great community of people and things like that, which is just very awesome to like see and hear.
Absolutely. Well, shout outs to them. If it's a different thing from Blurred Bash, shout outs to them too. They're doing great.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, Matt, we brought you here to talk about a specific kill that you have chosen. So why don't you tell everybody the kill that you have chosen and why you picked it?
Absolutely. So when you guys tasked me with picking a kill, I did my research with you, and everybody always went like the dark, morbid route, which was cool, but I wanted to be a bit different. So I picked the death of Judge Doom, aka the great Christopher Lloyd from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is a movie that is near and dear to my heart. I also picked it as a bit of a cheat code because he technically dies like twice in the span of like 3 minutes. And both of them are hilarious. So I definitely wanted to talk about that because that movie holds a very special place in my heart and my childhood. I still watch it regularly now, like as an adult with kids. So it's great for me.
Oh yeah, this movie is a timeless classic. It is a Robert Zemeckis film that everybody knows Robert Zemeckis with the work that he did on Back to the Future. Mm-hmm. He was one of the pioneers of Tales from the Crypt. One of the guys that helped bring that to life, which is awesome. And yeah, this was based on, have you ever read the book that this was based on called Who Censored Roger Rabbit?
You just blew my mind. Learn something new every day. I'm gonna read it now.
It's funny because like I don't want to say it's funny, but in the book, it's trying to figure out who killed Roger Rabbit. Roger Rabbit dies in the book, and it's the same kind of like 1940s noir kind of thing. And they're trying to find like who killed this Toon Star. I've actually never read it, but I've read a lot about it, and it's on my list of like many movies or many books that I want to read on that ongoing thing. But I figured this was like the best time to even bring that up because not many people know that it was a novel first.
Oh no, I appreciate you. You just gave me something to look up now for sure.
Well, I want to go around the room and ask everybody, starting with Jess, like first time seeing this movie or Kill, and like what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, I agree. It's fun. It is a funny death, I guess. I mean, compared to other ones we've done, definitely. I mean, first time this film's like classic, so I don't know. I've seen it a few times, but first time I probably saw it, I don't know, I might have been early high school, seeing it. I mean, I loved it. I love the combination of, the mix of the tunes with the real world all together. I mean, it's a fun death scene. That's weird to say, but it is.
How about you, Chris?
Well, I haven't watched this movie in years, so I thought I'd rewatch it for tonight. I got about halfway through it, unfortunately, but then I watched the death scene, and so much of this movie is I don't know if it was just kind of like it just seemed kind of like underwhelming to me compared to the technical prowess of the rest of the film. Like so much of the film is just like, how the hell did they shoot that? And it just blows your mind, even like 36 years later. And I don't know. I thought his the main death, like when he actually melts, was just kind of it was an underwhelming effect. Yeah, I don't want to poo-poo it, but and I guess it was a bit of a poetic justice, but I don't know. I want to watch it all the way, like completely through again to really get a feel for the character and how it builds up to its eventual demise.
All right, that's fair. I'll give you that one of it being a little underwhelming.
You know what I mean? But definitely the steamroller flattening was that was pretty good.
Yeah, that is the superior death of the two for sure.
Definitely.
What about you, Josh? What do you think?
So it brought me right back down memory lane because I remember watching this on channel 17 at like age 9. So
Damn.
seeing it definitely just dated myself too.
Yeah,
So
it took me.
well, like I forgot about the scream that he did as he was melting. I was like,
that's the best part, bro.
He's so ecstatic to die right now. He's like, oh, thank you. That's what I hear.
And Jill, what about you?
So I'm the anomaly. I'd never watched the movie before in its entirety. I've definitely seen bits and pieces throughout my life, but somehow I've never actually sat down to watch the movie until now. So first I watched The Kill itself to make sure I knew which one you were talking about when we scheduled. And I had no idea it was Christopher Lloyd at first until I watched it again and I looked up the cast. So that blew my mind. I loved it. I think it was ridiculous watching the mesh of the world of the Toonland and the real world. And I think just coming from the perspective of a huge Back to the Future fan, knowing that it was Zemeckis and Christopher Lloyd was really close to my heart of loving them and loving everything they do and feeling parts of that. So I think like it was amazing to have a kill that had 2 kills in one, because I thought in one kill, the steamroller, I was like, okay, he's okay, now he popped up. And I was like, okay, he's dead. Nope, he's not dead. He's a cartoon. And I'm like, what the hell is going on in this movie? I need to watch it from the beginning to understand what the hell's going on. And then he dies again. And it was amazing. I see why people love it. But it feels weird coming at it way late.
That's fair. I watched this movie. I don't even remember the first time I watched it. I just remember being really young and being in love with it. Because I was a Looney Tunes kid, not a Disney kid. So any excuse to see Bugs Bunny on a screen, I was like right there to want to watch it. And you get Disney and Looney Tunes like the first and last time that has ever happened.
Yeah, Bugs and Mickey on screen together. It's never happened before. Yeah, other than that.
And like the Daffy Donald Duck like piano battle, it's so classic, and like it'll never ever happen again. And honestly, I'm very thankful for it because it's preserved very well in this little time capsule. But I think like ever since I saw it as a kid, I was in love with it. And Judge Doom terrified me as a kid when his eyes turned to daggers and that high-pitched laugh that he does absolutely terrifies me. It reminds me of a coworker of mine this dude Drew that I work with has the same high pitched laugh, and he does that scream purposely because he knows that he sounds like him, and he'll do it or whatever. So Drew, if you watch this, shout out to you, goddammit. Yeah, this movie has always been close to my heart with it, and like rewatching it as an adult kind of like takes you back to being a kid and remembering why you like it, especially because like at that time period, like you had this movie come out, you had movies like Gremlins, like Robert Zemeckis and Joe Dante taking cartoon anecdotes and applying them to live action. So it was really cool to see, like, oh, he gets run over by a steamroller. How many times did we see Wile E. Coyote get run over by a steamroller and pop back up, or any other like Tex Avery kind of cartoon where they would blow on their thumb and pop back to normal, and then you see it done to a real person, and how like mind-blowing that is to see it happen. And it's such a good time with this.
I will also say, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but the I'm melting like was a nod to the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, there's so many callbacks and references in that movie. For sure. But yeah, because like just like you, like I don't remember the first time I've seen it, but I was a Disney kid, so I'm confident that I had seen. If y'all remember Bed Knobs and Broomsticks, y'all remember that movie?
No. You may have just unlocked the core memory.
Dog, facts. But it was a lot. Yeah, they were like flying around on a bed and like, you know, talking to different like characters and stuff like that with like their babysitter or whatever. It was like Angela Lansbury from Murder, She Wrote was like the star of the movie. But they also did like live action with cartoon characters, but it wasn't nothing like this. I don't think I've ever seen any like the integration of like live action and like visual effects like done this well, especially like back in the 80s at this time, especially like in the age where like they tend to skew towards visual effects instead of like practical effects, which I've always preferred practical effects, especially like in my Star Wars. So it's just like you couldn't tell me that these characters weren't really there. Like you could not tell me that like when he was like gripping up Roger the Rabbit that he wasn't really grabbing him. Like it was like the most wildest thing I've ever seen. And I remember my uncle was the one who showed it to me. And you know, like by the cover, the cartoons, Bugs is in it, you think it's a kid movie. And I remember when Eddie's like going into like that club to like do his like recon at the start, when he says to the doorman, the ape, he's like, "Hey, nice monkey suit," and the ape goes like, "Wise ass." I was like, did he cuss? Did that cartoon just say a cuss word? Like this is crazy. Should I be watching this?
They had to like draw their own character to say that line because like they were not going to get away with that with any Disney star or any of that.
Yeah, I just remember like looking around like, yo, am I supposed to be watching this film? Like I don't know what's happening here.
And it's cool that you say like, oh, it felt like Roger Rabbit was really there, because technically Roger Rabbit was there. They had a life-size foam Roger Rabbit stand-in that Bob Hoskins would interact with, and Charles Fleischer, the voice actor of Roger Rabbit, was on set every day of shooting, providing the voice of Roger Rabbit off screen, and that way he gave them eyeline, he gave them dialogue to work off of. And I think that is the most amazing. There's video footage. I'll have to find it and like plug it in. But there's video footage of him on set in the overalls and bunny ears, like next to Dean Cundey, who shot the film, and like just spitting lines out, which is amazing.
I know he was hot in that suit.
Speaking of like Disney and all that stuff, and Bob Hoskins, I did a little bit of research and got like little tidbit notes here, and one of my all-time favorite notes is that Bob Hoskins, I'm going to read it verbatim from IMDb, so that way I'm cited correctly. Bob Hoskins said that for 2 weeks after seeing the movie, his youngest son wouldn't talk to him. And when he finally asked him why, his son said he couldn't believe his father would work with cartoon characters such as Bugs Bunny and not let him meet him. Like, that is the purest bit of childhood that you can ever have. To be like, Dad, you worked with Bugs Bunny and you didn't let me meet him. Now I wonder if this is the same kid that made him do the Super Mario Brothers movie. Because that was the only reason why Bob Hoskins did Mario.
That was his get back.
Yeah.
We gotta do that.
In the Mario Brothers movie, he didn't know that it was based on a video game.
No, his kids had to know him.
I mean, to say it was based on a video game, it had the names.
It's called Dino Hatton. That was the
Yeah,
original title was Dino Hatton.
Yeah, let's not. We'll discuss Mario, like Super Mario, another day because that's a
Hey,
whole
man.
conversation. Where,
Big Bertha, the bouncer at the boo boo.
Oh yeah.
I love
it
this
so
one.
much, but I love it so much. But to say that it's based on the game is very questionable with those, 10-foot tall Goombas.
Man, when Daisy comes back at the end, like ready for war, I was just like, oh, why did they never give us a sequel?
Oh yeah.
I was so excited.
I see why we didn't get one.
Nah, yeah, now looking back, it's just like, oh, this shit, y'all probably lost money on this movie, but
Yeah.
like at the time.
But to go into the kill specifically, the effects team is way too long to narrow down. They had two effects teams. They had a UK crew and they had an American crew that both worked simultaneously together, both with animation, rotoscoping, and practical effects and things like that. One of the main effects pioneers on there was Peter Biggs was the name of the guy. He was kind of like one of the head honchos for the UK team. And he actually did effects on Star Wars back in the day. He worked on Empire. He worked on the original Superman and Kroll and Labyrinth, some of those things there. And when it comes to the final death of Judge Doom, I think it's pretty obvious how they worked on it. That they had like a stuntman and a dummy get hit by a high-powered hose with the dip, and they had a false floor with a trap door that would slowly lower him. Muddled that up with a lot of fog. It's hard watching this movie with a filmmaker eye. Like it disillusions it just like a wee bit because you see all that fog and smoke and it's like, oh, it's covering what's happening when I want to see like what they did with Bob Hoskins in the elevator with Droopy when he was like in the floor and stuff like that. I would have loved to have seen that, but I understand why they didn't.
Dip is just such a great name for shit that would kill you. Like, it's just like just in a movie full of like cartoon characters and just like the thing that murders you just called the dip. Like it's just so great. It's just so great.
All right, can we talk about like the real reason a lot of this shit was going down is because Judge Doom wanted to get rid of
the freeway. Just
for a freeway.
Yo. Like the worst motivation for a villain ever.
That's what was happening at the time. It was the 40s, like they were building freeways and cars.
And what was he saying? He's like mini malls as far as the eye can see.
Mini malls and gas stations.
So it's just a direct thing of Back to the Future.
It is.
Instead of pine trees and mini malls.
He delivers.
It's literally the same.
He delivers that line the same way he did in Back to the Future. Like, what a great idea of breeding pine trees. We're gonna call it a freeway. He was the king of the pause and deliver. But like, it's really funny to like think about that, especially with growing up and living in Philly, gentrification. That's what Judge Doom was doing. He was genderfying fucking Toontown. He wanted to rid it and get rid of all the cartoon characters, even though he was a self-hating toon, I guess, because he was a toon himself, but wanted to eradicate his entire race for a freeway.
For a freeway. Not even an expressway.
No.
A freeway.
That was going to come next. That was later down the line.
Yeah, like you might as well put a turnpike with tolls. Bro. Like, come on, freeway. I remember being a kid and being like, I don't know if that's enough reason to commit toon genocide, but I'm here for it. I guess like, the movie was great. Toon aside, yeah, there it is.
It's funny because I guess not the late 40s, but like as like the 60s rolled around, that's when like traditional like the golden age of animation kind of like died out. Because the goal, and when in the 50s, like the 40s, that was like the golden age of American animation. That was like the peak, where they were making the highest budget, highest quality films. And then as like television became really popular, they were like, how can we like churn these things out as cheaply and efficiently as possible? So by the time you get to like the end of the 60s, and you have stuff like Scooby-Doo, where it's just like cells just moving back and forth over top of each other, hardly any animation at all. And by the late 80s, there was like a kind of like a renaissance in American animation, where they were trying to like revive all these ancient techniques and trying to make more higher quality animation. And this film just kind of like fit right in there too, I feel like. Where like that Dr. Doom kind of like represented that, like he wanted to kill off animation, and this was like the peak of that time. You know what I mean? And yeah, I could see the connection between like the late 80s and like the late 40s, kind of in that regard.
Oh yeah, like
Presented-
even earlier in the movie, like when they go and they show that like he bought out the trolley way, and the dude was
red car.
the red car, yeah, and it was the driver was drunk in the bar because he got laid off and depressed, and like a lot of it was about like facing change and like getting rid of things. And although like the message is like, no, change isn't good, we like what we have and it's fine for what it is, which, you know, can be said for a lot of things. But then like you want to think about it on the opposite, and it's like, oh, they were refusing growth. Like how cool would it have been to have a highway stretch from LA all the way to the East Coast and connect all these cities? Like maybe Judge Doom was on to something.
All right, when you put it like that.
But you got to destroy all the cartoons, all the great cartoons.
Yeah, I mean,
perspective.
So yeah, we ended up with Scooby-Doo. I mean, we'd have like nice highways, but does anybody like? I'm sorry, I fucking hate Scooby-Doo. I think that's why I keep up Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, you know what's crazy, Chris? Because I love Scooby-Doo, but like you saying like it's no, you good. I won't yuck your yum. It's fine. But like you saying like how it's so lo-fi beats. It's crazy because it really is just like a still image, and they just kind of like skate across the scene. Like that's literally all Scooby-Doo is. That's fine.
What about a pup named Scooby-Doo?
Oh man, love
Yo,
Pup.
that was the
That's a little bit better. That's
Scarier.
like they were trying to like, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Trying to bring
That
up
had
that
the
animation renaissance.
That show had the best in joke where the kid, the bully,
Red
was named
Red Herring. Yeah.
Yeah. And they
Red
always
Herring.
thought it
Do
was
you remember
him.
the episode where it actually was him the one time?
One time it was Lupus.
It's such a good play on words of like red herring. Like, oh yeah.
Yeah, everybody gave Fred shit. They was like, "Oh, it's not Red Herring. Relax." And that one time it was him. I would have just talked shit for the rest of life. Y'all can't tell me nothing. I knew it. I knew it was him.
Yeah,
Y'all ever seen a show called Clutch Cargo?
No, can't say that I
I
have.
don't think so.
It was this cartoon that they made in the 50s for television, and they were like, how cheap can we make a fucking cartoon for kids? And they just pushed it to the absolute envelope, like how cheap they could make something. Like that's where they came up with the idea of like having like the mouths, like they would have like a still drawing, and if they were talking, it would be like they have to have them like
Like
I
Mad
don't know.
TV.
Yeah, like on Mad TV or like late, like you know, like Conan O'Brien, where they have like the mouth like superimposed over top of an image. All the music was just a guy with a pair of bongos. It was just absolutely the cheapest of cheap. Like, and that's I don't know. I bring that up because it kind of that's like kind of like it goes along with my earlier point.
Look, I just looked it up. Do you know where you can stream it? Tubi.
Yeah, I knew it.
I mean, everything's on Tubi.
Of course, it's on Tubi.
To reel back into Roger Rabbit real quick. One of the other notes that I found that I thought was like really cool, and it leads me to a question that I want to ask everybody. So apparently, John Cleese auditioned for Judge Doom, and both Steven Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis refused, thinking that no one would take someone from Monty Python as like a serious villain because it's fucking Monty Python. But Spielberg liked Johnny Cleese so much that he casted him in American Tail 5 Goes West as the villain, Cat R. Wall, because he liked him so much for the audition of Judge Doom. Who else? And I want to start with you, Matt. Who else would you imagine playing Judge Doom besides Christopher Lloyd?
Damn, no pressure. I got to think of big actors back in the 80s. Ah, shit. Damn, Christopher Lloyd, like he was so good in that role. All right, hold on. I'm gonna think of something. I'm gonna try to get a deep cut.
We can come back to you.
Yeah. I gotta think of somebody.
All right, then I'm going to kick it off because I thought about this, popped into my head instantly because we just watched last night or the other night, Mrs. Doubtfire. I would say Robin Williams. I think Robin Williams would have made a really good Judge Doom because he can play. Now, he wasn't doing serious roles at that point, but I know he could play serious roles. But imagine what he would have done when he formed into his toon self and just been like on crack. I think that could have been really, really well.
You know what? It would have been really interesting because he's such an animated person that I could see him like putting himself into that role. He's a cartoon, but he has to try to cover that aspect of himself up to like pass as human.
I think he would have like a nervous tick.
That approach to the character, that would be really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I see him like kind of twitching or something. Like there would be a tick that he would have that would kind of give it away, or not give it away, but make it like a subtle hint that there's something off about him. And I think like that flip to animation, like after he would have gotten steamrolled, then he popped up, would have been amazing. How about you, Jeff? What are you thinking?
Me?
Yeah.
Timeline aside, I think Jim Carrey could do it.
Oh yeah, Jim Carrey.
You just read my mind. Okay.
Yeah,
absolutely. But that was what I was thinking of too. But I thought like 80s,
I think Jim Carrey would have been good too, especially like because he is at that point he was doing In Living Color at the time, or no, this was pre In Living Color.
Yeah,
I guess just stand up at the time then, yeah. But no, I could definitely see that working. Okay.
I think I got some. So
what you got?
So I got two because I like what Jeff said with timeline aside. So for the time, especially for the tune part, I don't know, maybe the judge part. No, you know what? I think you do both. Jack Nicholson. I feel like with the transition to the tune part would kill that.
Okay.
But timeline aside, so randomly, because the reason why I kind of like didn't have an answer at first, a name popped in my head when you first asked, but he's definitely more popular now. I don't know why. I feel like Ron Perlman would be really good.
Oh, Ron Perlman would
just Doom. I just feel like he would just him as Hellboy, just with that. I feel like him and the judge with the hat and the glasses and like his earliness would just work.
He would have like he would be intimidating as Judge Doom. Like you would not want to fuck with Ron Perlman in any sense of the word. And I can see him being like a goofy tune. I think
like his face, he has a very animated face. I just feel like it would work across the board. I feel like the high pitched voice might not work. It would probably be like a deep one, like a scary deep one would work. I feel like it would work.
I remember when Hellboy came out, it was when the remake was coming out with the dude from Stranger Things.
Yeah. Hopper, John Harbour, I think's his name.
I think so. I was talking with my buddy Mike about it, and I was like, I don't know, like he just
David Harbour.
There you go. I was like, he doesn't fit the look of Hellboy. Like it just doesn't work. I was like, Ron Perlman. There was something about Ron Perlman with it, and my buddy Mike Roker, he's like, no, like the problem is like Hellboy just already looks like Ron Perlman. That's just what it is. He's drawn to look like Ron Perlman without Ron Perlman knowing. That's why it worked so well. So no one else is ever going to look like Hellboy because he just was drawn to look like Ron Perlman.
That's like with Sam Jackson and Nick Fury. They just changed Nick Fury in the comics to just look like the Sam Jackson person. They was like, you know what? We're just gonna give it to Sam.
And it works so well.
It does.
All right, Jill, how about you?
I have a weird one. I think Martin Short actually.
Oh, I love Martin Short.
I think I grew up on every movie he's done, and I feel like he can get really animated and really weird. Have like this little short, angry, yelling man.
Oh my god!
I think he'd actually be kind of ridiculous.
Do you love Clifford as much as I love Clifford? I love that movie.
I didn't even know that movie existed until recently. And it's
the new version?
No,
like the original?
No, the original movie with Martin Short playing the kid.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that was a thing until I was scrolling through Tubi, and I was like, "Why is Martin Short playing?"
It's on Tubi.
It's on Tubi.
I will be watching that tonight, bro.
He plays like a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
I was like, and it works. It works 100%. I still haven't watched it.
And then like him as an adult, he's like a monk. Like when he's like telling the story of his life, and Ben Savage is randomly in it. I love Clifford. That's a great movie.
Chris, We didn't do your pick. Your turn.
No, I was thinking Judge Reinhold.
Oh, all right.
I've never seen Judge Reinhold play a villain, and I think he could play a really like. I don't think it would be over the top like evil. Like I really think they were going for kind of like a obviously like a cartoonish evil with Judge Doom. But I think that I think given the chance, he would be. I think he could be kind of like a kind of a like a sinister kind of shady, like there's something bad, like he has like this good outward look to him, but there's something horrible underneath, and I think that's something that could have maybe not the best choice for Doctor Doom, but I would have been
no. You know what it is? I would say because he's so deadpan that it could definitely work with it's like because you think about him in Fast Times and like even in Gremlins, like a lot of like the way he delivers lines can be snarky, but you don't know like is this man insulting me or not insulting me? I don't really know. So I think he could really play up to that like really well. And I think watching him be animated would be like a fun little nuance.
Oh yeah.
Josh, how about you?
All right. So I also have two. I can't remember the name of the first one right now, but it was what was it, Mark? The man that played in Little Shop of Horrors. That
Rick Moranis?
Rick Moranis.
Yeah. Yes. And
wait, Rick Moranis or white hair.
He left.
Steve
I
Martin.
know he left. Yeah, because he left the Martin Short. Is that his name?
Or Steve Martin. Yeah, Steve Martin.
Steve Martin. Thank you.
I got you.
Thank you.
All
right.
Yeah.
Gotta change my pebble here.
And I guess for this time on, strangely, Neil Patrick Harris.
Oh,
okay.
I'm rolling.
Yeah, Neil Patrick Harris is already a cartoon, so that makes perfect sense.
I also would want to go with like was it Michael C. Hall?
Michael C. Hall would
like have like a weird Dexter vibe to it.
That would have been fun.
And see him be animated would kind of be interesting. He's
Yeah.
got the villain part down, but like, can you be animated without making it creepy?
He can totally be animated. Michael
I
C.
love
Hall. Like everyone's spitting names, and another one popped in my head. Dustin Hoffman popped into my head, and like because like Rain Man for some reason came into my head of thinking like people hitting roles that you wouldn't expect them to hit, and like Dustin Hoffman and that. I feel like
what Captain Hook? Love
that
movie, bro.
Who was the one that was like the coach in the movie The Ladybugs? That guy's
Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah.
That would have been funny.
I just feel like he has like the look to be with cartoons.
He's got a wild look.
Jess,
I
want.
also love to see.
He does. His eyes definitely do.
Oh yeah, the eyes. They wouldn't even need no effects for that.
Jeff, the fact that you brought up Ladybugs, oh my god, that hits my heart very, very hard because I love that movie.
Great movie.
It's a classic.
And oh god, R.I.P. I'm blanking on his name. The kid from Ladybugs, who was also in It.
Yeah.
I'm very bad at doing this. I gotta look up the name. It's gonna drive me nuts. Oh god, who are you in Ladybugs? Jonathan Brandis.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Jonathan Brandis.
I keep forgetting how old he was when he died. I just keep picturing him as a child.
He was 20s, late 20s.
I don't know.
Forever a child.
Basically.
Yeah, he did that movie Sidekicks, which I will always love. If anyone's ever seen Sidekicks, where it's a Chuck Norris movie about this kid who is obsessed with Chuck Norris movies, and he would daydream about being like partners with Chuck Norris in all of his movies.
That's dope. So what? Is that like their version of The Last Action Hero? It's like a side.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I thought.
Last Action Hero. Oh, there you go, Schwarzenegger. How about Schwarzenegger as Judge Doom?
I did think about it.
Jonathan Brandis, he was the replacement Bastion in Never Ending Story, the second one, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
was it 2 or 3? No, it was 2, yeah.
It was the second one, which, back when you're a kid, you always think the sequel's the better one. So I definitely watched that one way more till I got older. But yeah, damn. Oh yeah, R.I.P. R.I.P. for sure.
Oh man,
Who is he in Aladdin?
Jonathan Brandis was in Aladdin.
According to his movie credits. Oh, the animated series. Never mind.
Never mind.
It does not count.
Doesn't count at all. That wasn't the worst of the animated series that they made from Disney movies. That wasn't the worst.
I will always appreciate the fact that Dan, I can never pronounce his name, something really, really Italian. But the voice of Homer Simpson took over for Robin Williams as
for Genie. Yeah.
for those. And he was this is when I first learned that there are voice acting doubles. That for Robin Williams, it's Dan Canistelli or whatever, however you pronounce the last name, does Robin Williams. And the dude from Rob Paulson, who was on Pinky and the Brain and everything, is Jim Carrey's voice double, which I think is like really cool that they're the ones that go in and
that's dope.
Does anyone know who? This is completely off topic, but it fucking works. Anyone know who Richard Pryor's voice double is?
Eddie Murphy.
Not Eddie Murphy. It's someone that you would never ever expect it to be.
Damon Wayans?
No.
Someone we would never expect it to be.
Walter Matthau.
Dick Van Dyke.
I was about to say something like that.
Still names out. John C. Reilly.
Dave Coulier from Full House is Richard Pryor's voice double.
I feel like that checks out.
There's an amazing video of him doing it live, and it's fascinating. Dang. It is the scariest thing to see Richard Pryor's voice come out of anyone else's mouth.
The legend of Dave Coulier just continues to grow.
Yeah.
I would have never guessed that.
I remember hearing in an interview with Tom Hanks, I guess he said something because he does Woody, right, in Toy Story.
Yeah.
And they needed his voice to do like all the toys, because the pull string, he makes the noise. And he's like, I don't have time for this. So he called his brother and was like, you got to do this for me. So his brother is the voice of all the toys.
Oh, I did not know
Oh,
that.
shit. That's dope. Also, like,
I thought it would have been
when it pulls the string, like, there's a snake in my boot, like that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I thought it would have been his son, because I know his son is an actor.
Who, Chet Hanks?
Yeah, but he was like they were all too young at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. That was like 94 for Toy Story.
Oh, man. I missed the Chet Hanks era. That was great. When he had that when he had that white boy summer, I missed the Chet Hanks era. That thing was crazy.
Oh shit, that's good.
Oh man.
If you're interested in more Christopher Lloyd cartoon stuff, in the mid 90s they released an adventure game that like a computer game, like a point and click adventure game called Toonstruck, where Christopher Lloyd is a cartoonist who is slaving over this thing that he has to get done, and he falls asleep, and it's like a dream sequence where he gets sucked into the cartoon world that he made, and his partner to guide him through the world is voiced by Dan Castellaneta. And they go to, it's like an all-star cast, and it's like all sorts of, like, you have to like go to different places and like solve puzzles, and there's like different realms of the cartoon world. It's really cool stuff.
So was it
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Was it a video game version of Page Master? That sounds like Page Master. Which is also a movie that kind of blended cartoons.
Super slept on movie.
Classic.
Super slept on
blended
movie.
cartoons and live action. That movie fucking ruled too.
Love that movie.
Yeah. Page Master is definitely a classic. That was he had the Harry Potter glasses before Harry Potter.
Yeah. Young old Macaulay Culkin. Other roles that other people who were considered for the roles of Judge Doom. Let's see if any of these hit our list of people that we would have predicted, because one of which made it on there. Yeah, so Christopher Lee, R.I.P., would have been a great Judge Doom in my opinion.
That would have been good.
Another R.I.P., James Earl Jones was considered for the role. And I don't know if James Earl Jones he's too powerful. his voice is so powerful that I can't see him animated. I see him more like very serious, very,
Well, the character, the character needed to squeak a lot.
Yeah, how does that's Darth Vader's in this movie?
Yeah,
like he's under the mask. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if, and I love James Earl Jones. I remember the first thing that I seen James Earl Jones in was not Star Wars, but it was The Sandlot.
Oh, yeah.
With fun fact, my favorite movie of all time.
Really, Sandlot. Hell yeah.
Love The Sandlot, dog. We will get stuck here. We could talk about something else because I'll get stuck.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
Didn't you work at Whole Foods with Smalls one time?
No, so it wasn't. I didn't work there. He worked at a store in Jersey. Smalls worked at a Whole Foods in New Jersey, and he worked overnight grocery. So
I believe this wholeheartedly.
People would call the store and ask if Smalls was working. So much so that's why they had to send him to overnight, because the store phone would ring off the hook to be like, "Is Smalls working today? Does Smalls work at Whole Foods?" And it's just like, man, what a legacy.
And then you work at Whole Foods.
John Voight was also considered. John Voight was he was in Anaconda, he was in Deliverance.
John Voight high key plays the same character in every movie.
He does.
Same character. It works for him. His niece, but it's the same character every movie. Him and Michael B. Jordan. Same character. Every movie.
You got Roddy McDowall was considered of Fright Night fame. Murray Abraham, which I'm looking at who he is. He was in Grand Budapest Hotel, Amadeus.
He was in Star Trek.
Star Trek Insurrection. So okay, that's kind of somebody. James Woods.
That'd have been good. Yeah, that'd have been
work.
I can see that.
The singer Sting. So we could have gotten a little.
Sting.
He got the height. Sting is tall, but I don't think Judge Doom would have scattered at all. Tim Curry.
I'm just saying. Has anybody ever seen Sting and Phil Collins in the same place? Same person. So I'm just saying. That's all I'm saying. Never seen them in the same place.
No, you're right.
I can't argue that.
Same person.
Tim Curry was also considered, which would have been amazing.
Yeah, that would have been good.
Especially at that time period, it would have been perfect.
Oh yeah. He can play a really good cartoonish villain, and he has,
Oh yeah. And then last but not least, someone who was considered that was listed that we said Arnold Schwarzenegger was considered of all the people.
That's awesome.
Imagine him just doing his thing.
See, I can see him being animated, but I can't take him seriously.
Yeah, him monologuing about a freeway would be hilarious.
I could take it seriously in brutalized.
The cookie. Oh, dude!
I could see it though, because I remember watching Jingle All the Way with him fighting over a toy.
Great movie.
So, I feel like
I love that movie.
Put the cookie down. Does anyone know what brief? There's another question going around. Does anyone know the film that Roger Rabbit has a very brief cameo in? Very, very brief.
I know because you told me.
Yeah, I told you earlier.
You reminded me
because we were talking about it.
Older
movie.
Older movie.
I mean, not by much though. This came out in '88.
When? Hold on, I'm gonna look up when the other one came out.
85.
Was it? No, the first one came out in 85. Oh shit, that just gave away a lot of.
That doesn't help me at all. So you're good.
Oh really? Okay.
Because
it's not Howard the Duck.
Okay, so the first
close. That's a good guess.
You're right. True. Oh yeah, that math does make sense.
All right, so Howard the Duck adjacent. All right, what we got left?
That's true. So
Okay, so Roger Rabbit has a very, very brief cameo which I'm considering it a cameo. Some people might not consider it a cameo. In Back to the Future Part 2, when he's in the future, when Marty's in the future and he looks into the store and there's the store that has all the old relics of the 80s, there's a Jaws NES game, and above the Jaws NES game is a plush doll Who Framed Roger Rabbit doll.
Hey.
And I think that is the only time Roger Rabbit has actually surpassed the movie, because I would have assumed that after this movie came out and became a hit, we would have gotten a Roger Rabbit cartoon.
Yeah, that must be a Mandela effect thing, because I do
Makes
like
sense.
I feel like hearing you say that he hasn't done anything else other than that. I feel like I used to see him all over the place, but I used to watch that movie all the time, so that could be just
for
that.
for the longest time, the cold open cartoon I thought was an actual cartoon, because it was just done so well, like the way that they did it, that I just always thought that it was its own thing, and it just never was. Which kind of like upsets me, because I think it would have been great to have had its own cartoon.
He said, "I can do stars. Look, look."
Looks like he,
Has he? Oh
it
wait,
looks like he was in. No, go up.
he was
So it looks like
Mickey's 60th birthday. He was in.
Oh, he had to show up for Mickey's birthday. Like, come on, that's a who's who. Everybody was there.
Well, that was the same year the movie came out, so that could have been for promotion.
I
There's
do have a
apparently-
question though, like, and in the behind the scenes, like, how did it come about that they would use the Looney Tunes and Disney? Like, I feel like that would never be allowed today.
Well,
Like,
so the
crossover.
there were rules when they were like pitching it, because the only person who had that power to make that happen was Steven Spielberg, and he's the one that made that happen. But there was an agreement, like when he went to both whoever owns Looney Tunes, I'm not really sure. I think it was ABC at the time,
Warner Bros.
and it
Warner
was
Brothers, right?
well, Warner Brothers, yeah.
Yeah.
But Warner Brothers was under another thing, like ABC was involved, from what I was reading, I want to say. But either way, they went to them, they went to Disney. The rule was if you had Bugs Bunny, Mickey Mouse had to have the same amount of screen
time.
as Bugs
Yeah.
Bunny. And that's like one of the only ways that they could have done it. So that's why they're in the same scene together at the exact same time, falling with the parachute, is because they're in the exact same scene for the exact same amount of time. But apparently, and I was wrong, Roger Rabbit had short films.
Mm.
I think it was 3 shorts.
There was 3 short films that came out from 88 to 89, which is pretty fascinating to think that they did and you had Kathleen Turner and Charles Fleischer return as Jessica Rabbit and Roger Rabbit.
Were the cartoons done by Richard Williams, or were they somebody else?
Let's see. Richard Williams, and they're directed by Rob Minkoff and Frank Marshall. I'm not seeing who did the actual animations of. Wait, who did you say for the animation?
Richard Williams, legendary animator, did all the animation for. Was in charge of the animation in Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh, doesn't say.
Yeah, I can't imagine they'd pay him to make the little other things.
He has one.
Dang, that kind of makes him more legendary that he didn't do anything else.
He did a few things, but his works were like extremely grandiose. Like he was like one of these people that's like, I need to have like obscene budgets, and it'll take me like years and years and years to make the thing.
Michael
And he
Bay.
just
James Cameron.
he was look up some of his other works. There was one that he was making for like 30 years and called The Thief and the Cobbler that he never finished because it just kept running over budget. And eventually they were like, okay, we're just going to take this from you and take what you did and just slap it together and shove it out the door. Because it was basically the story of Aladdin.
It's Aladdin, isn't it? Yeah.
And then Aladdin came out, and it's like, okay, now we just got to like wrap this up. But there's something. If you've never seen that, give that a look, because that's got Vincent Price is the villain in that one, and he knocks it out of the freaking park.
Yeah.
Wait, wasn't this Vincent Price's last movie?
No, his last Vincent Price's last movie was Edward Scissorhands.
That was his last live action movie.
This was the last movie that he was in that might have been released, because it was eventually released, cobbled together in '93. But his audio was recorded in like the late '60s, and they wanted to bring him back to make additional things, but he was too messed up and old to do it at that point.
Then that makes a lot more sense to be the last one we're in, because I did not know that history of it.
I think I remember this movie.
What was that?
It's
interesting. That's hilarious. Like, I would imagine that meeting, like on the 29th year that the movie didn't come out. Yeah, they're like, all right, this is it, guys. Like, we've been patient.
Things he kept putting on the back burner when he was doing other things, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and you know what I mean.
And Joe looked it up. He didn't do the animations for the short films for Roger Rabbit. He just did the actual movie.
Mm-hmm.
So someone else did the Roger Rabbit stuff, which is interesting because, like, yeah, if he's demanding all that budget, I mean, like, look at that animation style though.
Oh yeah,
that opening cartoon, like when he's running around the screen after, like, you know, having the hot like tea kettle and shit on his head, like it's flawless.
It's amazing.
If there was anybody that could make like all that like animation like blend with live action properly and like do all the different like panning and that those types of angles, it was Roger Williams.
Oh yeah.
Oh, hold on just a second.
So good. The Thief and the Cop.
But I do wonder, I'd like to watch the shorts now, because if he wasn't a part of it, I wonder why like none of you guys remember these shorts existing. So there's clearly no staying power to them.
I mean,
for some reason.
Lovingly, I can assume that none of us were alive in '88.
That's a good point.
That's because like we had that media, we had the source to that media.
Yeah, but there's always a thing with like none of us ever really watched like the second and third Little Mermaid. We just watched the first one.
Yeah, but there
like 5 Aladdin
because there was like hard copies of it. I don't think there's any hard copy.
Now, Aladdin and the King of Thieves was a good movie. The third one was good.
That was with his dad, right?
Yeah, that's when his dad. That's when his dad comes back.
He's got a father. We just don't talk about his dad. Just shows up. Yeah.
I like Aladdin 4. Jafar gets glasses. That's one of my favorite.
Classic.
Oh, well, it is on YouTube. The Roger Rabbit shorts are on YouTube. At least one of them is.
Well, I wonder where they existed in real time back then.
Right.
Like where others would have watched it, whether it was on a compilation VHS tape or whether they were on a show or where they were meant to be seen at.
Yeah, I don't know. And yeah, the animation is significantly different.
Oh, most definitely.
Look at Baby Herman. It looks like it reminds me
of Animaniacs.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, it definitely looks like Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain style. Because like this is definitely when Steven Spielberg's company took over it.
It's got a different polish to it, and like.
Okay, so this, according to the YouTube description, it was accompanied by Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
I was about to say it was one of them shorts before the movie starts.
Yeah.
One of them type situations.
We do have that on VHS.
Oh, I love the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids movies.
Yeah, fact. Honey, we shrunk ourselves.
Yeah, we just don't talk about
Honey, we shrunk ourselves. Yeah,
that was my shit.
Yeah, we just don't talk about the girl starting a sex call.
That's how I learned about potassium because of that movie.
All right, guys, we are hitting our hour.
I was like, he needs a banana.
Oh, that's how I learned about potassium too. Oh my god. Yeah. Wow. I remember like, oh yeah, I saw this movie one time where they talked about the kid was about to pass out. I was like, oh, that was that movie. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you never seen Honey, I Shrunk Ourselves? I only seen.
No, this was off from the first one, I think.
Was
no,
it?
That's
no,
all I
no,
remember.
the second one. You're right. It was
Yeah,
one
because I
yeah,
It was like it was the third one. Yeah.
Honey, we blew up the kid. That was the third one.
Honey, we blew up the baby.
Yeah,
That was
was
a
the
good
third
one too.
No, so honey, we blew up the baby was the second one because Adam, the baby, is like grown in the third one. It's his party.
Oh,
that they
okay.
throw
I
in.
didn't realize that. I forgot.
Okay,
about
so
that
yeah,
one.
I didn't see the Shrunk Ourselves one.
They used to play that on Disney. They used to play that on Disney Channel all the time. I know you say you weren't a Disney kid. That's probably
Yeah, I
why
was
you
a
missed
Disney
it.
kid. I was watching like Nicktoons and Cartoon Network.
I know the girl who's a part of Nexium. She was in that.
Yeah, the Nexium girl was in
Yeah,
that movie.
you know,
I
you-
remember.
Oh yeah, the girl from Smallville.
Yeah.
Allison Stoner, I think was her last name.
Mac?
Allison
Oh, okay.
Mack. Yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah, you know, you go from Disney to starting a sex cult. It's fine.
Yeah. That documentary is
We
wild.
just don't want to talk about what Disney does to people, that they go from one to the other. But
Yeah,
you know, that's fine.
they've done a lot. All right, so we are hitting our hour mark. So we're gonna do a round of final thoughts. So Chris, we're gonna start with you. What are your final thoughts of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, The Kill, and now that you have this abundance of information, what are your final thoughts?
In terms of The Kill, it's same type of thing. I thought it was a little underwhelming of a finale. Honestly, good on top of all the rest of the absolute technical prowess of the rest of the film. But I think at that point, it was still a very nice death. To see the whole melting bit. It was adequate. I'd say it was an adequate death.
All right. Jess, how about you?
I mean, it's just a fun movie overall. It's like childhood dream of cartoons in real life and making them seem possible in a weird way. So yeah, it's just a fun movie. It's a fun death scene. He, gets what was coming for him, and you can't do it a better way in terms of the cartoon, the story behind it. So I think it was a fitting end. I like that, like we mentioned before, he kind of dies twice, which when he pops back up, you're just like ready to keep going. So it's just fun.
Josh?
So, like I said, it's definitely a classic, and the way that I can sum it all up is watching it again as an adult is a completely different experience.
Oh yeah.
And it's totally worth it. It's so full circle.
Jill?
I mean, I enjoyed it. I definitely want to go back and rewatch it. I want to watch the shorts. I feel like I was missing something in my childhood that I did not see this movie growing up. So I'm curious of like what it would have been like to actually grow up on it and see it. But I feel a lot of the Back to the Future influence, and that's where my heart is. So I love it. Yeah.
I'd say for me, I think as underwhelming as the death was, I think, Chris, you put it the best way earlier. It was poetic justice. This film holds up in every aspect possible to me. Brought me back to childhood, made me feel like a kid again, watching great cartoons. And yeah, it's a 10 out of 10 for me. Matt, we want to end on you since this was your pick. What are your final thoughts?
Brandon, I'm right with you, brother. I never left the movie because I continued to watch it through my whole life. But like you said, it holds up. Like still watching it now in 2024, like it's just as good. I still feel like I haven't seen it before when I watch it. Chris, to co-sign with you, the steamroller death is the better death. Like him getting the hydroplane of the dip. I feel like when you watch what he did to like the little shoe with the dip, it makes it better to watch him get it back. So like watching it and this whole thing does make it more satisfying. But now with all the added lore that like Roger Rabbit really didn't do anything else other than this movie, just makes his legend so much bigger for me. So I just enjoy it so much more now knowing that.
Hell yeah. All right. 2 more questions before we sign off. One, has anyone ever played the Roger Rabbit NES game on Nintendo?
I feel like I have. Like, I feel like if I see it, I'll definitely like unlock memories like of playing this game. I gotta look it up.
I don't think I played it though.
It was the basis for the very first Grand Theft Auto game. That like the overhead was like because when you would get in the taxi and you would drive and you'd be Eddie Valiant driving in the taxi, it became like the predecessor for the very first Grand Theft Auto game on PS1 when it was all the overhead thing. It was like definitely one of the bases for it. But it is a god awful game. Highly recommend never playing it. A good friend of ours, James, who does the Angry Video Game Nerd, reviewed it, and there was a phone number in the game, and like back in the 80s, you would call that number, and it used to be Nintendo tips, so it'd give you like cheat codes and stuff for Nintendo. And when he called it, it was a phone sex line now, so that's still a thing for Nintendo.
Sounds about right.
And then my second question: did anyone predict Judge Doom's death happening the way that it went down? Like, did anyone see it coming?
Yeah, him being a tomb, like that was like, what a twist! Like, what a twist at the end.
I thought the steamroller was going to do it.
Facts. Yeah, you definitely look at that as like, this is you start looking at the people who showed you the movie, not knowing he's a tomb. Like, this is not a kid's film. Like, why are you showing? This is bad parenting. This is negligence. Yo. Like, why are you showing me this? Yo?
Which you can only realize as adults.
No facts.
Yeah, I did not see any of this coming at all. Even as like a kid, like I was like, oh my god, this is like the best surprise I could have ever asked for. Yeah, anything else?
No, I enjoyed it.
All right, cool. So I want to thank Matt for coming on with us for this episode of Kill of the Week. And Matt, besides your podcast and everything like that, do you have any other social medias that people could follow?
If so, you can get to me through DB4_pod or Annie Are You Okay pod on Instagram, but my personal Instagram is _menace2 sobriety, pun intended. That's not part of it, just menace2 sobriety, and it's the number 2 not spelled out.
All right, sweet. So thank everybody again. Thank you, Chris, Josh, and Jess for being part of this with us. And we will see everybody next week with a brand new episode of Kill a Loop.